The termination letter cited poor performance. The performance metrics showed I'd exceeded every target for 18 consecutive months. Both documents had the same signature, same date, same HR file. My name is Rebecca, and I'd worked remotely for the software company for 3 years. Customer Success Manager, based in Dublin, reporting to a team lead in the same city. The termination notice arrived on a Wednesday morning. Email. Subject line, Employment Status Update. Effective immediately. 2-week severance. Access to company systems revoked within 24 hours. Reason stated, failure to meet performance standards. I opened my performance dashboard. Updated automatically. Real-time metrics. Customer retention rate, 97.8%. Target, 90%. Revenue growth from my accounts, 34% year-on-year. Target, 15%. Client satisfaction score, 4.9 out of 5. Target, 4.0. Every metric green, every target exceeded. I checked the termination letter again. Signed by HR, countersigned by my team lead. The team lead was the co-worker who'd applied for the senior manager position I'd been offered 2 weeks earlier. I'd accepted the promotion. Contract signed. Start date confirmed for the following month. The promotion announcement had gone out Monday. The termination letter was dated Tuesday. I saved everything. Performance data, promotion offer, termination notice, company communications. Then I opened my personal banking app. I had options most people didn't. My family had sold a logistics business 5 years earlier. My share of that sale was substantial. I'd invested carefully. Diversified portfolio, some real estate, some tech startups. I also knew this company's financial situation. I'd seen the quarterly reports. All employees with equity had access. The company was privately held. 23 employees, 3 founders. Majority stake held by 2 of them. They'd been looking for Series A funding. The pitch deck had been circulated internally 6 months ago. They needed capital. Growth was strong, but cash flow was tight. I closed my banking app, opened my email, started drafting a message to my solicitor. Then I stopped. I didn't send anything yet. Thursday morning, my access to company systems was revoked. Email account deactivated. Slack removed. Customer database locked. I'd expected that. I'd already downloaded everything I needed. Performance reports, client communications, the promotion offer letter. I also had the company's articles of association, the shareholders' agreement, the capitalisation table. All documents that had been shared with employees during the equity education session last year. I spent Thursday reviewing them carefully. The shareholders' agreement had a standard clause. Any shareholder could sell their stake. Right of first refusal to existing shareholders. If they declined, external buyers could be considered. 2 of the 3 founders held 60% combined. The third held 15%. Employees held the remaining 25% through an option pool. I made notes, saved them in an encrypted file. Friday, I received my final paycheck, 2-week severance included, all accrued vacation paid out. No mention of the promotion, no reference to the signed contract. I didn't contact HR, didn't ask questions. I spent the weekend researching, company valuation, market comparables, recent transactions in the sector. The company's last valuation had been 18 months ago. External assessment for insurance purposes. 42 million euros. Revenue had grown since then. Customer base had expanded. That valuation was likely low now. Monday morning, I contacted my financial advisor, asked about liquidating some investments. How quickly? How much? She said 2 weeks for full liquidity, possibly less for partial amounts. I told her I'd get back to her. Then I contacted 3 former colleagues, people who'd left the company in the past year. One had been a senior developer, another had been head of product. The third had been a customer success lead. I asked if they'd heard about any funding discussions, any shareholder changes. 2 responded within hours. They'd heard rumours. One of the founders was considering selling. Personal reasons. Wanted to exit. The founder who held 30%. I made more notes. Tuesday, I filed a formal complaint with HR, wrongful termination. Cited the performance metrics, referenced the promotion offer. I attached all documentation, performance dashboards, client feedback, revenue reports, the signed promotion contract. I requested a review of the termination decision. The response came Wednesday afternoon. HR acknowledged receipt, said they'd review the materials. Someone would respond within 10 business days. I didn't follow up. Thursday, I reached out to the founder who was considering selling, not directly, through a mutual connection. A client I'd worked with, a CEO who knew both of us. He'd mentioned once that he played golf with the founder. I asked if he could make an introduction. Said I was interested in discussing investment opportunities. He agreed, said he'd reach out. Friday morning, I received a message from the founder. He'd be interested in talking. Coffee next week? I confirmed. Tuesday afternoon, the following Monday, I received HR's response. 9 business days after my complaint. They'd reviewed the materials. They stood by the termination decision. Performance metrics alone didn't tell the full story. There had been concerns about cultural fit, team dynamics, communication style. None of these concerns had been documented. No performance improvement plan, no written warnings, no prior feedback. I saved the email. Then I drafted a response. I requested specific documentation of the concerns mentioned, dates of incidents, examples of poor team dynamics, records of communication issues. I sent it that afternoon. Tuesday, I met the founder at a cafe in central Dublin. Small place, quiet. He looked tired, stressed. We talked generally for 20 minutes. The business, market conditions, growth challenges. Then he asked why I'd wanted to meet. I said I'd heard he might be considering exiting his position. If that was true, I'd be interested in discussing options. He seemed surprised. He asked if I was representing investors. I said no, I was exploring a personal investment. He asked about my background. I explained the logistics business sale, my investment portfolio, my experience in the sector. He listened carefully. Then he said he was considering selling. His wife had health issues. He wanted to step back, focus on family. He hadn't made a final decision yet, but if he did sell, he'd need to offer it to the other shareholders first. I said I understood, asked if he'd let me know when he decided. He said he would. The meeting ended after an hour. Wednesday, HR responded to my documentation request. They couldn't provide specific examples. The concerns had been communicated verbally. No formal documentation existed. They maintained that the termination was appropriate. I forwarded their response to my solicitor, asked her to review everything. She called me that evening. She said I had a strong case for unfair dismissal. The promotion offer followed by immediate termination. No documented performance issues. Metrics showing strong performance. She could file a claim with the Workplace Relations Commission. I asked about timeline. She said 6 to 12 months, possibly longer. I asked her to hold off, said I wanted to explore other options first. She said to let her know. Thursday, I contacted my financial advisor again. Asked about accessing €4 million within 2 weeks. She said it was possible. Some holdings would need to be sold at less than optimal prices, but it could be done. I told her to prepare the paperwork. Don't execute yet. Just prepare. Friday afternoon, the founder sent a message. He'd decided to sell. He was formally notifying the other shareholders. They had 30 days to respond per the shareholders' agreement. I thanked him for letting me know. The following Monday, I received a call from one of the other founders, the one who held 30% of the other 60% block. She'd heard I'd met with the selling founder. She wanted to understand my interest. I said I was considering an investment. I believed in the company's potential. She asked if I knew I'd been terminated. I said yes. I believed that termination was inappropriate, but that was a separate matter. She asked what I meant by separate. I said my interest in the company was based on its fundamentals: strong growth, good product, solid customer base. My employment situation didn't change those fundamentals. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said she and the other major shareholder couldn't afford to buy the full 30% stake. Cash flow was tight. They were looking at external investors, but that would take time. I asked if they'd consider me as the buyer. She asked if I was serious. I said yes. She said she'd need to discuss it with her co-founder. She'd get back to me. Wednesday. Both remaining founders called. Conference call. They discussed it. They had concerns. I had been terminated. That would create an awkward situation if I became a major shareholder. I said I understood their concern. I proposed a compromise. I'd buy the 30% stake. I'd take a board seat, but I wouldn't seek reinstatement as an employee. I would, however, expect the board to review the circumstances of my termination, ensure proper procedures had been followed. They asked why that mattered if I wasn't seeking reinstatement. I said it mattered because procedure mattered. Good governance mattered. If the termination was properly justified, fine. If it wasn't, that should be acknowledged. They said they'd think about it. The call ended after 40 minutes. Friday afternoon they sent an offer. They'd support my purchase of the 30% stake. I'd get a board seat. They'd agree to an independent review of my termination, conducted by an external HR consultant. If the review found procedural issues, they'd acknowledge them formally. No financial implications beyond what had already been paid. I reviewed the offer with my solicitor. She said it was reasonable. The HR review would create a record. Even without reinstatement, it would document any wrongful conduct. I accepted the offer. The sale process took 3 weeks. Due diligence, legal review, share transfer documentation. The purchase price was €12.6 million, €4.2 million per 10%. I liquidated investments, took a small bridge loan for the remainder. The transaction closed on a Tuesday. I became a 30% shareholder, the single largest individual shareholder. The first board meeting was scheduled for the following Thursday. Wednesday, I received an agenda: financial review, Q3 planning, HR matters. The HR matters section included one item: review of recent termination decision. Thursday afternoon, I joined the board meeting. Video call. 6 people total. 3 founders, 2 external advisors. Me. The meeting started with financial review. Revenue was up. Expenses were controlled. Cash flow was improving. Then HR matters. The external HR consultant had completed her review. She'd been given full access, all documentation. interviews with relevant parties. Her report was distributed during the meeting. I read it carefully. Findings. The termination decision was not supported by documented performance issues. The terminated employee had consistently exceeded all measurable targets. No progressive discipline had been implemented. No performance improvement plan had been offered. The stated reasons for termination, cultural fit and communication style, were not documented prior to the termination decision. The timing of the termination, immediately following a promotion offer, created an appearance of retaliation or alternative motivation. Recommendation: acknowledge procedural failures. Implement clearer performance management protocols. Consider whether the decision-maker should continue in leadership role. The room was silent for a moment. Then one of the founders asked who had made the termination decision. The HR consultant said the decision had been recommended by the team lead, approved by HR without adequate review. The founder asked if the team lead was present. She was. On the call. The founder asked her to explain her reasoning. She said the metrics didn't tell the full story. There had been interpersonal issues, communication problems. The founder asked for examples. She provided vague descriptions, tone in messages, approach to clients, team dynamics. Nothing specific, nothing documented. The founder asked why none of this had been documented. She said it hadn't seemed necessary at the time. The founder asked about the timing. Why immediately after the promotion offer? She said the promotion decision had been premature. She'd raised concerns but had been overruled. The founder asked why she hadn't documented those concerns. No response. The founder turned to me, asked if I wanted to comment. I said the report spoke for itself. Procedures hadn't been followed. That created risk for the company. Going forward, better protocols were needed. The founder agreed. She said they'd be implementing the consultant's recommendations. Formal performance management system, documentation requirements, regular reviews. She also said they'd be restructuring the management team. The team lead position would be re-evaluated. The meeting continued. Other business items, budget discussions. The call ended after 90 minutes.
2 days later, an announcement went out.
Organizational restructuring. The team lead was being moved to an individual contributor role, no direct reports. A new team structure was being implemented. External hire for the leadership position. I received several messages from former colleagues. They'd heard about the restructuring. They asked if I'd be coming back. I said no. I was focused on the board role now. 3 weeks later, the company closed its Series A funding round, €8 million, led by a venture firm I'd connected them with. My stake was diluted slightly, down to 26%. But the valuation had increased. My equity was worth more than what I'd paid. The company was on stronger footing, better governance, clearer processes. 6 months later, I attended another board meeting. The new team structure was working well, revenue growth was accelerating, customer retention remained strong. The meeting agenda included a resolution. Formal acknowledgement that my termination had not followed proper procedure. The resolution passed unanimously. A letter was drafted, placed in my personnel file, stating that the termination decision had been procedurally flawed. The company acknowledged this error, no financial compensation beyond the original severance, but the record was corrected. I filed the letter with my other documentation. 1 year after the purchase, the company was acquired. A larger software firm, strategic acquisition. The sale price was €98 million. My 26% stake was worth €25.5 million. After taxes and the bridge loan repayment, I netted €18 million. The team lead received her equity payout, standard employee option amount, approximately €80,000 before tax. I never spoke to her directly after the board meeting. We were copied on some of the same company emails. That was the extent of our interaction. 2 years later, I invested in 3 other companies, board positions in all of them, active governance role. I kept all the documentation from the Dublin company, the termination letter, the performance metrics, the HR review, the board resolution, filed in a drawer at home. Sometimes the best proof of what happened is silence.